In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a Marimekko chart with Chartjs. And you can see here the scales will show in percentages, but the values in the data labels are shown as absolute numbers. And you can see the tooltip will show you the percentage and the absolute values here. And it will sum up total to 100. And also if we hide some of the items, you'll see here the tooltip, the data labels will disappear accordingly. So let's start to look how we can do this. So let's start to look how to create a Marimekko chart in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to get our boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started, this specific link, which you can find as well in the description box. Once you're on here, just copy this chunk of code here. Copy this. If you want to understand this code, watch this video here. So then I'm going to paste this in here, cut this out, put the title in here. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we have this. What I want to do is I want to maximize the chart, say 80%. Save, refresh. Once we have this, the next thing what I want to do is I need to create basically the 100% stack chart. And for that, we can use a plugin which is built as well. So just go to chartjs.org.com, click here on ecosystem. And once you're on here, just scroll down here and then look for the plugins. And you can see here the plugins. This is the one we need. Draws 100% stack bar charts, supports Chartjs 2 and Chartjs 3. So stack 100. Click on this. Once you're on here, scroll down and just copy this link that we need. The CDN.js deliver, this one here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to just put this in here. Save that. Once we did that, we're not done. If you look here, we need to activate this or register this plugin, and it needs to be done like this. This is the command for that. Normally, I would have it here activated as a plugin here, but this doesn't work. So I need to put in here this default command here. So once we did this, if I save this now, refresh, of course nothing happens yet. And the reason why nothing happens is we didn't activate, or we have activated or registered it here. But we need to now say we want to use this plugin type. So what we're going to do here, in the scales, or at least after the scales, comma, we say plugins, and then we're going to select here the plugin that we want, which is our stacked 100. That is the object name. And then we're going to say here enable equals true. If I save this, refresh, it will work, but of course you can see here what is truly happening. It just gets only one data set. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate the data set. Let's duplicate this data set so we have two different values. Put a comma here, and then I'm going to change this here as well. So I'm going to remove all of this, and this one here I'll make it red, so we have the differences. So I'm going to say here this will be the black, because this is the black cells, or at least the black bars, and this is the red bars. So save that, refresh, and now we have these two here. As you can see here, what is still missing is, well, first of all, we need to maximize the space here, and you can see here the border at the bottom is missing as well. So what I'm going to do is, you see here this border width, I'm going to remove this and remove that one here. If I do this, I remove the borders. I don't want to do that, but I'm going to move the borders here down. So we have what we call a dry code. Don't have to repeat ourselves multiple times. So I'm going to say here, enter, border width will be equal to 1. If I save this, comma here, and then save, refresh, it's back here. However, the border at the bottom is missing, so we want to show this. So we say here border skipped, and we're going to say here false. So we don't want to skip any borders at all. Refresh, there we are. So now we have this, and I feel like this tooltip is currently blocking my way or very distracting me. So I'm going to hide the tooltip for now, comma, I'm going to say here tooltip enabled, and enabled here. Make sure we spell this correctly, and you can see here this might confuse if this one has enabled, this one is enabled, so make sure you pay attention on that. Say false on this, save, refresh. Alright, so no more distraction. What I want to do here is I want to maximize this size, because a Marimekko chart has maximum size on this. It's basically almost like there's a chart where it covers full scale of that one. I think it's a tree chart or something like that. What we're going to do is then what we want to do here is, let's see, I want to say here after this we say here bar percentage and we put this on 1. If we do this, we'll maximize the size of the bar. And what happened now is slightly bigger, but the category percentage is on 90% as well. So what I want to do, I want to maximize this so that this category from left to right is being fully covered. So I'm going to enter here, category percentage. And if you want to understand this, I have a video about it. Just search for understanding category and bar percentage in Chartjs. I'll put this on number 1, save, refresh. Now we have this fully done. However, look at all of this space here. I don't like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the structure a little bit to play around with it. I'm going to say the background color will be 1. This will be 1. And here, I'm just going to convert this into white. So I'm going to say here white. Copy this and put here white as well. This is a string value, save, refresh. Alright, and now you can see here, and I do notice that this is maybe a bit too much or a bit too bright. So I'm going to just reduce it to this. Alright, that looks quite nice, but look at the background. Marimekko Chart doesn't have usually these grid lines at the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide all the grid lines that we have here at the back, but I will keep the outer grid lines intact because those are necessary for us. So what I'm going to do here, in the scales, I'm going to say a comma, and I'm going to say here grid to pinpoint the grid on the Y scale. And then in the Y scale, what I'm going to say is draw on chart area. And we set this on false, hiding basically the lines on the chart area. If we do this, that works. And let's make sure we do this as well for the X scale. So we have that all nicely organized and cleared out. So I'm going to say comma here, and I'm just going to grab this, put it in here. Save, refresh. Now we have this, and this looks, or it starts to look quite nice. What I want to do is just to make sure, I'm going to change the values here. I'm going to make this all number 3. And just make one 33, and then this one 3 as well. Save, refresh. So as you can see here, now it starts to change nicely. And if I would enable the tooltip, we will have, let's say true, save. We will have here the value and the percentage. Now comes the tricky part. What I want to do now is I want to build the data set labels, or sorry, the data labels in here. If you would, you might say, well, let's use the data labels plugin. Issue with that is, and it's not the best solution, although it's really wonderful, but it doesn't work 100%. It's a bit buggy, and the reason why is we have the percentage and the value. And the dataset label will show you the percentage, but once you hover over it, it will get the value. What I want is basically just the value, because the percentage should be written here. It's given here on the side. That can give us already the information. So what I want to see here, how much is the percentage, or what is the actual absolute value, which is number 18 and number 3 here. So what I want to do is I want to show those values, and we have to build our own because the data labels plugin will not give us, or give us a bit of a buggy response. So I want to avoid data labels, although I love the plugin, it's very good, but it's not suitable in our case. So that's the pity part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a comma, and I'm going to create here a new plugin. So I'm going to say plugins, and I'm going to say here, let's call this our Marimekko data labels. It's as simple as that. I'm just going to be very descriptive here. Copy this. Then I'm going to say here, let's say here the Marimekko data labels plugin block constant Marimekko equals this ID equals Marimekko. And then when would we like to draw the data labels? Well, we want to draw them on top of our values here. And what we're going to do here, we're going to say here before, or sorry, not before, after the data sets draw. And we're going to say chart, arcs, and plug in options. Although we won't be using the last two, we only going to use the chart here, which is our object. So what we're going to do now is an object destruction. If you don't understand object destruction, please watch my video. In the description box, you can find it, understanding Chartjs for object destructuring. So I'm going to constant equals chart. Alright, we have this here. Then we're going to say here, I need the CTX, I need the data, I'll be needing the chart area, that can be useful for us. Top and bottom. Next, what I want to do is the scales. So just a quick note here, I have tried to put in the center, but it's very tricky. So I'm going to just put it here slightly on the top. So there's no other solution for me at this moment. That's why I really love the data labels. It put it nicely in the center, but it doesn't show the value I want. So you have to pick your, I guess, one of those options, or you go for perfect center but a bit buggy, or slightly at the top, but at least the correct value. So what we're going to do now is the following. First of all, what I want to do here is ctx.save to save all the values that we have above and that make it a default. So what I want to do is I want to put in the text, and let's work with the first text. We're going to say ctx.font. And what will be the text? I want to make this bold. So I'm going to say bold 12 pixels, which is the default in Chartjs. And then we're going to say here sans serif. So that is the first one. The next one is the font style or the font color. So I'm going to say the fill style, which is called the fill style, equals, and I'm going to get here the official Chartjs value, which is hashtag 666, very symbolic. Next, what I want to do is I want to make sure, well, we can leave that one for now. I'll do that later on. But what we want to do now is get the text to show in our bar here. So what I'm going to do here is basically the following. I'm going to say here chart, and so I'm using here chart, but let me just explain here. What I want to do here is, let's do that first. Let's put in the text. So we're going to say here fill text, and then in here basically we will have a text, whatever that will be. We will have the X, and then we have the Y value, which is the position on our bar. So to fill up this, or to find the answers for this, I need, and I was getting ahead of myself, I need a command. Let's do a console log to show you this. I'm going to say a chart, which is the chart object itself. And then what I want to do here is I want to use a specific function that Chartjs allows us to use. It's built in. It's called get data set meta. And then here index, what will be the index? Right now I'll put in index 0, which is the very first one, which is the red sales bars. And then what I want to do here is just show you this. If I save this, refresh, open up developer tab, you will see here the full object with the information, and we get a lot of information here. And then eventually, if you go here to the data, you can see here the X and Y's. And the X and Y's here indicates basically the information that we have, the X position and the Y position, which would be probably for Monday. If this is Monday, on this point here, and then the Y position is just the top here. So because it goes from this to that, and of course from here to there. So what I'm going to do now is just say here dot data, and then we say here index 0.x. So if I save this, we get here now the first one. So what I can do here basically, we have this dummy text here. Well, let me just put a 10 and 10 here, so we will see that we get something at least. Save, refresh. Alright, let's refresh this again. There we are. So you can see here we have this text. Now what I want to do is I want to position it with this new command that we just grabbed. I'm going to put that in here. And the same thing what I will do is with the Y. So I'm going to say instead of X, Y, save, refresh. And as you can see here now it is, and let me just hide again the tooltip. It is here, but it's just on top of this. So if I go here above, what I want to do here is, well, first of all, can we get the data value? Most likely we can. If we just grab here, I guess the data, we want to get the value, which is the number 18 for this, because we have this value here. So how do we do this? Well, basically, this data object leads us to here, data to data sets index 0, and then index 0 for the data here. So what we're going to say here, data.data sets index 0 dot data index 0. Save this, refresh. Now we have this. What I do want as well is it's not really in the center. So let's push it in the center, and that's what I want to do here. Say here ctx dot text align center, right? By default it's on the left side. So now you can see here it's nicely centered. Alright. So now we have this, and I'm not able to put it in here, at least not with a proper moving effect. So that's a real pity thing. It's something I need to study on. What I do want to do is, I want to make sure that this one is in our bar here. So I'm going to push it a little bit down. So what I'm going to say here on the Y, minus, let's say 12 pixels, save, refresh. Oh, we cannot do minus because we need to do is plus because we want to go down. If you do minus, it goes up. And that's of course chart area in Chartjs. So if you want to understand all these logic, there's a video about that, understanding the chart area in Chartjs. So you can see here we have this now. That works quite well. Now what I want to do is I need to do this basically for every item here, or for every data set that we have. So what we're going to do here is create a simple for loop. And this for loop will measure the length of how many items we have here. And from then on, it will loop on the index here, on the data, not on the data set. We'll work on it later on, so don't worry about it. I haven't forgotten about it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to say here is let value I equals 0. Then we say I for iteration. We want to repeat ourselves multiple times. How many times do we want to repeat ourselves? Well, we're going to grab data dot labels dot length. That's the amount of data points we have. So we want to loop through that X amount. And then we say I plus plus. Then what I can do here, I can cut out this, put this in here. This console log could be removed now. We don't need this anymore. And we can say here, we're going to put an I. We're going to put an I, and we're going to put an I here. If I save this, refresh, now we have the value, but we're still working on the last one here above. So how do we do this? Well, what we need to do here now is another loop. And this is called the for loop. And the for loop will analyze how many data sets we have. Or sorry, not the for loop, the for each loop. The for each loop will loop through how many data sets we have. How do we do this? Here in the data, which is basically the reference to this, to data sets. And then we say here not each index, we just say only this data set, which will calculate how many we have, and then we'll loop through that. So let's start to look at this. We're going to say here data dot data sets, and then we say here for each loop, and then here double parentheses, and then I'm going to say here this will be the data set, comma, and the index. That's the two things I want. Then I'm going to do here a function arrow expression, and then within here I'm going to cut out this, put that in there, indentation, indentation. And now what we want to do here, this data set here, what we could do, I guess we could even shorthand this one like that. That might be as well, but just to be sure, I'm going to just put this one in here to avoid any kind of confusion. As you can see here, because this here is a command that we need to put in a number. So if I do this, save, refresh, now we have them working, but we're not done. Now I'm going to show you, if I click on this, look at this, what's happening here. If I do this, it does all kind of weird things. What I want to do is, I want to hide these numbers if we have hidden this bar. So what we're going to do here, basically the following. We're going to say here, we create a nice if statement. And this if statement will say the following. Let's see. We're going to say here, and we have to do that. We have to make sure. Well, before I even show you, I'm going to show you how we're going to analyze if something is visible or hidden. So there's a nice item for that. So I'm going to say here it is. Let's do a console log for that. We can grab these nice information. If I save this, refresh. Alright, what did I do? Did I cut out something, or did I damage something unexpectedly? Of course, we're not allowed to do the index like that because there's no index number. So let's put in here a hard-coded 0. That means data set number 1, or the first data set. Alright, so now you can see here this. If I click on this, you will see here hidden equals null. Now I'm going to click on this to hide our data set. Scroll down, and then you can see here hidden equals true. So it will show you here hidden true, and then if I click again, it should show you hidden false. Let me just show you this. I'm going to say a dot hidden, and this is what we need. If I refresh here, click on that, true, false, true, false. But remember, the first initial load, it becomes null because it's just not given. So by default, then it will be a visible item. So what we want to do is we want to only check if hidden equals true, and if so, do not do anything, and if it's not, then show. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy this, create a new if statement in here, I'm going to say here if this index hidden equals true, or sorry, not equal to true, so it could be null or false. In that case, loop through this, and else hide it. So let's test this. Save, semicolon here, refresh. So then let's do this, and then if I click here, it's hidden. If I click this, it hides as well. Click on this, it shows again, and here it shows again. Absolutely phenomenal. So let's test this on every possible way. Alright, so this looks very nice. If I refresh here, everything will show again. And that's basically how we can create a very simple Marimekko chart with Chartjs. So if you enjoyed this video, and maybe for example you don't want this, but maybe you want to make a tree map chart, what I was referring to, this is another type of chart as well, which is called a tree map chart, and maybe you want to learn about that. I have a whole series about it on how to create the tree map chart with Chartjs tree map plugin. So I would recommend you this video, or at least this entire series, to watch as well.